right. So, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Some of you may already know me with past events, but I'm Tyra again. Um, I am the Partnerships Operations Manager here at Fractionals United, and I'm excited to introduce our speaker here, Keith. He's the CEO of Atomic Elevator. Keith brings 30 plus years of entrepreneurial and marketing expertise with a track record of raising 34 million, launching 5 companies, and serving as a fractional CMO for over 30 companies. So I've already had a sneak peek of what we have planned for today, but I would just let Keith go ahead and dive in. So please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you. Thanks, Tyra. Lovely to meet many of you. And as Tyra said, my name is Keith. I'm grateful for opportunities like this. Many of you I'm meeting for the very first time, and I hope that this is the beginning of a new friendship and maybe some support that we can offer. As Tyra said, I'm going to skip most of my career and take you back to a moment 2 years ago. I was a marketing agency owner. I was personally operating as a fractional CMO, and I found myself assembling a group of fellow CMOs, and we felt like something bigger was happening. There was a lot of change that was underfoot. And so we started an experiment, which led to a product that we ended up calling Elevator AI. And today, I'm not going to be explicitly talking about Elevator, although we're going to be using that for some examples. Rather, my intention is to share some of the lessons that we have learned from our community of hundreds of fractional CMOs and even big business CMOs who are using our software and who are sharing their stories. So I want to share with you today what's working, maybe some of the lessons that we've also kind of messed up in, and ultimately what we're seeing some of the biggest opportunities sit around for us to capture from. So my hope is that you're going to be encouraged. My hope is that you're going to see your own role in this world of AI shifting as one of greater value, and that you're going to find a few ways to actually walk away with applying your unique superpowers and activating them because of these changes. But before we dive in, I'd love to actually just hear from each of you a little bit about your experience. So I have a little poll here. If you want to either QR code this with your phone or go to menti.com and put in this code, I have a handful of questions that I'm going to pop up here. And once you get there, you will see kind of question number 1 is, how are you using AI right now?
Are you asking all of us or just one by one, Keith?
I am asking all, and through the Menti, you should be able to just indicate your answer to that, and the poll should start to light up. So if you head on over to menti.com and put in that 55782269, I feel like I should be saying callers are on the line right now. There's only 10 orders remaining. Oh my gosh, as you bring this up, I will tell you that if you do a deep search, I have been on Home Shopping Network for 7 times and am somewhat embarrassed to admit that. So,
Keith, I'm just going to say in 15 seconds, I'm old school. I'm 63 years old. I'm not going to go to Menti. Keith, I'm a fractional CFO or CSO. I can't leave the profession. I love it. I see a lot of AI being used for content gen. They're sending out emails with it. They're sending out LinkedIn with it. Number 1. Number 2, they're using it for rules-based scenarios to judge viability of contacts. You've got seamless AI. And then, of course, every application in the world has bolted on an LLM. My pipe drive will do content generation for emails. So that's what I am seeing. I am so glad to hear what you're doing. That's me.
love it. Thank you for jumping right in and also saying, hey, there's other ways to do this. I love rule breakers. I've been one my entire life. So thanks for speaking up. I love it. Looks like a lot of clusters around augmentation, a lot of clusters around kind of questions and research. A little bit surprised about the automation, although frankly, a little encouraged by that. And I'll share more about why later. And I also want to just acknowledge the one person who said, hey, I'm not actually using AI. So you've got somebody who's just purely curious in this moment. And I want to make this a safe and awesome experience for you as well. So thank you for starting with that. I'm going to go to question number 2. And and feel free if you're not using Menti. I see about 20 of you are and 20 aren't. If you want to just chime in, you can also do the same. But I'm curious what kind of either fears you might have or question that you think is lingering out there in the background. So if you want to quickly answer that as well, I would love to get a sense of this. Anybody want to weigh in while the results are coming through?
I'll just say it, no fear here. I see a lot of responsible people trying to use AI the best that they can. The one thing that is happening is AI is that it is the only technology since Morse code where the hosting firms and the hosts are and the creators don't provide assistance in prompting. It is the only industry where end users are not assisted in prompting. They do that because they're afraid to be sued. You guys don't have this problem. That's me.
What a fascinating perspective. Thank you for sharing that as well.
Sure.
Completely agree. So awesome. Looks like not a lot of people afraid of replacement. Interested that you're not getting a lot of pressure. I know a couple of years ago, I was already starting to feel pressure to deliver more with less. I'm glad that you're not feeling, or many of you are not feeling like your value's at risk, but I want to acknowledge those people who might be feeling that. And it sounds like a lot of that energy is clustering around new opportunities that could be unlocked, which is awesome because that's what we're going to be jumping into. I've got just another question here too, and then we're going to jump into some content that I've prepared. So what do you think your clients are asking about AI? What are they asking themselves and maybe even surfacing to you? And those could be slightly different, but.
I'll jump right in again. Obviously, I'm an alpha male. The first thing that people are asking is IT and corporate departments are going, how do we control AI? We've got Copilot out there. We've got no standards. These guys are doing queries. We don't have control of that. The thing that they're asking about AI in your sector is data security. What are you guys doing to keep my data? Are you HIPAA compliant? Are you PCI compliant? So it's data security with bots. It is corporate usage with LLMs and corporations, in my humble opinion.
Love it. All right, it looks like the biggest cluster here was in getting results faster and cheaper and kind of the pressures that are coming from that. And then the third was, or the second, excuse me, was implementing it strategically and safely. And so this is super valuable for me to kind of calibrate some of my future comments. And I'll be sure to share out results just as we kind of have these informal polls. Let me jump in and tell you, I did a little bit of research before this today to just say, okay, what is the current state? And I thought about 4 different ways that people are using AI, specifically in zones of white collar work, or what's been traditionally described in this kind of expert driven field. And there were 4 things that I looked at. The first was kind of, are people using it to answer? The second was to automate. The third was augment. And the final was kind of alter their model. So not unlike that first question that came up, not a big difference. It sounds like on this call, there's many more people that are using it to augment than is general. So I want to congratulate you for moving forward. But there were 2 things I want to surface to kind of lay the foundation here. The first is, great job for showing up wherever you're at and whatever things you're doing, because the way I look at this is almost like a football field. We are at the start of the game. We're really way down at the 10 or 15 or 20 yard line. That is 10 to 20% of the people are even doing anything, which means 8 or 9 out of 10 are not even using AI on a regular basis. So we obviously have a very skewed group here, and I want to acknowledge that and say, awesome job. I also want to encourage you around the advantage, which is, I believe and have learned in the last couple of years, that the advantage that each of you have is actually inside yourselves. And so that's what I want to jump into in a moment. And so I want to just explain how we have processed 3 big shifts. I want to identify what those are and then tell you what I think the implications are. So shift number 1 is that knowing things is no longer a mode, right? Many of us built up, depending on where we're at in careers, on expertise. I know how to do X, Y, and Z, and therefore I'm valuable. And what's happening here is that value is just eroding almost to nothing. Knowledge as a as a commodity really is just everywhere and it's almost worthless. And so the second is that doing things is also becoming cheaper and cheaper. Tasks are actually being eaten up by automation, and this is now moving into those of us in offices and who do thinking-based work. And the third is that this middle roles and kind of average position is really going up, which is good. Anybody who's below average can quickly get to average with some free knowledge and some cheap tools to do. It's catching up. And so what's happening out of that, though, is that the bar for exceptional is actually shrinking. So this could be looked at as bad news. I don't look at it that way at all, but I do think that there are some direct implications that need to be identified. And those are really the basis of what I'm going to share for the rest of this call. The first is the middle shrinking piece, right? So the spot between generic and genius is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The second is that for those of us that built and dependent on a model of marking up some other person's time or marking up and even just selling our own time, I think that that has a very short half-life. These models are actually going to be gone at the end of this revolution, if you will. I don't think it's about selling time or reselling people's experience. Because everybody has access to some of these same tools. And the third is that exceptional is actually becoming harder and harder. That is, if you want to win, you cannot just be average or slightly above average. The crowd is getting bigger, answers are getting easier, and therefore standing out takes more effort. And so while AI is making kind of average easy and more accessible, and the risk is that your edge disappears, I actually think that the core way to frame this is the biggest thing that we all have an opportunity to elevate in each other and in ourselves is becoming more and more distinguishable. That is, the risk is for us to become the opposite of that. If clients can get pretty good work from an AI or pretty good work from somebody just sitting down at ChatGPT and typing something in, why should they choose you? And I want to give you some hope here that there's actually 5 things that we've learned, at least, that can be helpful. And I want to also invite this as a conversation so you can weigh in on this too. There's going to be 2 parts to this, though. The first are 3 things that everyone can do at the end of today's call. And the second might involve a little bit of a stretch from what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so we're going to do this in kind of 3 and then 2. And at the end, the 2 is where we're really going to get into things like the custom AI bots. But before we do that, I want to talk first about quality, because if we go right to how do we build a custom bot and how do we automate some things, the reality is if we do that on a shaky foundation, all we're going to do is build what I'll call sloppy bots. And that's not good for anyone. So I want to just provide to you tip number 1 or step number 1, which is leveraging your expertise. And I just set this up on slide here with kind of an A, B. On the left is, if your client or somebody who doesn't know anything about marketing, for example, were typing something into, and I did this in ChatGPT, hey, I have a small outdoor gear shop in Montana. We're called Trailhead Supply. We sell some stuff and I need a marketing plan. It's kind of a base level prompt. I think most of you know that an expert level prompt looks very, very different. Many people have been learning how to construct these, but I want to be explicit about some things that are in there. The more we can say about what we believe, what we've learned, what we're looking for, what role we want that AI to play in processing, the better. And that is kind of point number 1. You have expertise. Don't just ask AI to, as I teach at the college where I help out at it, and at a high school class too, do your homework. That's not the right solution here. It's rather co-creating and collaborating with AI in augmentation. And so if you do not know how to do this or find yourself still stuck into the pattern of create this or do this, I would encourage you to start with a question of asking whatever your preferred LLM is, what are some ways I could do this? So approach this more with curiosity. Here is a lesson on the flip side of this, though. If we do this on top of a general tool, this averaging machine, it's still going to ultimately come back to you with average answers. And so AI can be mesmerizing, as we've all seen when we first saw this stuff. For me, it was a couple of years ago. It looked like complete answers and sound responses until you dig in. But as you may have seen on a report that was introduced just a few weeks ago, a lot of the answers that are being delivered are actually sourced, about 40% of them, from Reddit, for goodness sake, in ChatGPT's model. And I don't know about you, but I sure don't want to be building marketing plans on the basis of crowdsourced general knowledge in something like Reddit. And so AI at the core is this averaging machine. And so if you want to be exceptional, you need to change the sources. And that gets to kind of this example, which is you can come in and use your expertise also to supplement those sources. So with average information, you're just simply going to get average answers. I went back and posted here what ChatGPT told me with this example, which was to run a spring sale on hiking gear. Here's what that looks like. Offer 10% off for 2 weeks. Is that a good marketing plan? I don't really think so. Sales, we don't even know if they're right for the brand. Is that going to stand out in the marketplace? What's the competitive landscape? Why are we offering 10% off? And what is this going to do to price erosion and kind of all kinds of other implications from a customer point of view? If you look at the answer that you might have gotten by providing that additional expertise, you're also still going to see a relatively average answer in here. It's a little bit better. A spring launch featuring trail cleanup or new hiking gear drop, a content calendar that might celebrate. This is getting a little bit better because of the prompt that was used. But where I want to take you with step two is the more you can train the model with your expertise, and you don't have to be a programmer to do this. You can do this in a conversation, in a prompt that's taking place, or you could do this with custom GPTs that we're going to talk about. The more you can provide this context, the more reliable and frankly, the better foundation you're going to have in building answers. And so there's really 3 layers that we have learned and focus on to do this. And I'm hoping that this expands your thinking, because it's not just here, provide a business plan or provide a persona. Rather, there's 3 distinct things. One is being sure in a conversation to add knowledge from, say, your favorite marketing expert, whoever that might be, Donald Miller or Alex Osterwald, or maybe you like Hermosi's offers, or maybe you're a Seth Godin fan. Maybe you like Persuasion and Persuasion by Bob Cialdini. Telling your tool and in a conversation, building up that marketing knowledge. So you say, these are people that are authorities, differentiates you from the generic slop that's out there, pulls from more reliable sources than just that average pool, I almost said cesspool, but of junk that's out there. And that is a big place to start. The second is that template side. Maybe you know how to build a positioning statement. That's something that I started learning 30 years ago and still use to this day. Or I was a certified story brand guide for a number of years, and love what Donald Miller did with fill in these 7 blanks. It's a great template, but it's also incomplete. So if you provide several templates into there in a conversation and say, use this or reference this or help me fill out this, you get better and better context. And then the third is that top layer in there. It's got the center and what I have here, but the top dark green. Before you go asking an AI anything, provide it with what we call high definition, but it's essentially much richer business and market context. What's going on in the feelings in the US, if that's your market right now, in October of 2025, with what's happening politically and with interest rates? What's going on in a local environment if somebody's competing with 3 other plumbers, for goodness sake? Or what's going on in the minds of somebody who's thinking about spending $50 on a haircut instead of $30. Those are all examples of how additional context matters. And so here's an example of what that looks like. By going in and deepening that context, by adding your own templates, by codifying your knowledge, by referencing things like this, you get better answers. And so an example here is, here's a little bit on an ICP, and I just did a very short version of a value proposition using Alex Osterwalder's framework. What's the job you're doing? What's the gain you're creating? And what's the pain you're relieving? Uh, and so by providing that information in or coming back and saying, okay, I really want to think about attention pathways or do what's called a moments analysis. I really want to think not just about a customer journey map, but a timing map connected to peak attention. By making reference to that in your prompts, you get better results. And one of the things that we've found is, for example, different people have different philosophies on what marketing is. Some people think that the goal of marketing is to interrupt my day. I don't know how many of you get unsolicited emails and LinkedIn messages at the rate of 10 to 20 per day, but that's what I'm getting right now. And I have taken to the point of just simply not only ignoring, but blocking. I don't want anything to do with people that think that they have earned the right to interrupt me. It's just not good practice for at least me and what's valuable for me. So we have said that, for example, as you see at the bottom here, the job of marketing is unlocking attention and converting that to action. So in order to do that, you need to help me say the right thing in the right way at the right time to the right person. So help me create a plan that unlocks this attention rather than interrupt somebody's day. It's just a different philosophy about marketing. And you can put that kind of philosophical point into your context. So I know I'm jamming through a lot, but I want to show you the difference of what happens when you give that model additional context like that. Here's literally copy and pasted what ChatGPT came back and gave me just using the GPT-5 model. It's really not AI slop. Now it's starting to be thoughtful. It's starting to have strategy in there. It's starting to think about behavioral insights and campaigns that are more likely to work. Has 3 different campaigns that were thought through, connected to moments where we might get people's attention. It's aware of things like the emotional state, and it even is thought through. Here's a CTA that's relevant, like stop by for a cup of coffee before you hit the trail. Download or pick up our free trail report guide. Not just come in and buy something at 10% off, but let's build a community, or let's build a relationship, or let's become your guide along the way. This is what we think quality marketing looks like, and you can get there by providing more and more context. And so that's what I want to propose. I want to take a break here because I've been talking for a lot, just jumped you through many things with 2 core steps there. One is use your expertise, and 2, train with it. And I would just love to open it up to anybody who wants to share, like, how are you finding this? How are you extending context? How are you adding context? How are you leveraging your expertise, either with tools that you're using or just prompt strategies? Maybe we can hear from 2 or 3 people. Feel free to just go off mute and go for it.
Talk because nobody likes silence. Sorry, guys, I'm usually really quiet, but it's
I
just going to help
appreciate
out
you.
here.
Yeah, please.
Again, I'm on the sales consulting side, but I have to know about marketing well enough so that I don't do what I call stupid human stuff in sales that conflicts with marketing.
Oh,
I find this kind of technology to be a thought leader for me because you guys do distill down best practices and you do provide paths for clients to do things. So I'm here to develop awareness so that I understand how it's played on this game and how it's played on this game. And eventually the 2 AI paths will meet. I find that companies like yours are really doing their best to distill down the capabilities of core marketing subject matter expertise and provide that. And the marketing guy augments with one of 2 things. That is real world experience. Your chatbots don't know, for example, that sending 8 emails in 1 week is bad, but 8 emails in 8 months is good. That's just a made up example, but it is the human component of real life experience, understanding humanity, how they react, mixed together with the automation, the elegance, the content gen, the administration is the answer. My message to clients is I bring the business savvy and expertise of 40 years AI brings the horsepower and the brilliant mind. It
Yeah,
works like a charm.
love that philosophy. Thank you again for sharing. Cloud,
Sure.
I see your hand up.
Yeah, in terms of augmenting and giving context from other frameworks or points of view, I know I've used, and I think you know the framework from T2D3 from our friends at Kalungi. Certainly, taking a post that's really well done on personas and a framework that, coming from product marketing, makes sense to me relative to other ways or perspective, loading that up into ChatGPT, or because I'm a user of Ella, just to get a bit tighter, closer to my point of view of what I think at minimum 3 personas for B2B buyers, not 10, not 15, just 3. That's been very helpful from that perspective. And then depending on the ICP, I've got different models. If it's early stage, then I'll go pick on the Ash or Lean Startup and bring in a few frameworks that help at least be in the context that I know, where I can add value with something that's really uh, specific and framed correctly.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Cloud, for sure. One of the things, I'm going to keep us moving forward, but I will suggest if you have not been doing this experiment, if you have and have solutions, share them on LinkedIn. Tell people what's working. Right? I think all benefit by getting away from, again, AI being assumed to be just this Autobot that produces slop, to turning it into something that really can truly augment us. And the better we provide our own expertise and the richer context we can provide, the more value we're going to ultimately be delivering for clients. That's good, but we're also going to be raising the bar for others and the field of marketing. So I would encourage us all to do that. I want to take a slightly different shift now and move over to step 3. The first 2 steps are really about using what you know. And this one, I'm going to kind of come at this sideways. And I want to say, how about using AI for what you don't? Leverage what you don't know. The idea here is that we actually have limitations. And as an example, that very expertise that we talked about in step 1, or the frameworks that we know about in step 2, can actually lead to a bias for tactics, or it can limit the range of options that we consider. Our own preferences for work or stage of work can actually limit the quality of what we create. So what we found at the core is there's 2 key mindset variables that I would encourage us all to take. One of those is curiosity, and 2 is humility. And the very best marketing we've seen being done out there with AI is being done by those who bring both of those values into the conversation. And they do so in 4 very specific ways. The first that I have up here is, how about asking an expert to weigh in? And maybe there's a specific expert whose opinion you want. Maybe you don't know what expert might weigh in, but you could ask AI, who's an expert in this that could give me another perspective? For example, I recently heard a podcast with April Dunford, and she's got a brilliant framework for B2B presentations and messaging and communications. And I hadn't heard about her before. And so now I can regularly go into a conversation with AI and say, I wonder what April Dunford would have to offer here. Another is to say, act like a skeptic, get me out of myself, just play the counter role and ask and challenge essentially the assumptions that I have in here. And I think there's tremendous value from that. It gets to tip number 2 underneath this step, which is just ask AI to help you think about blind spots. By their very definition, this is the hardest thing for us to see. They are in our blind spot. We cannot see in that mirror that exists the car in that particular angle. So cars developed cameras or other notification techniques and technologies to let us know. I think we have the same opportunity to use AI for explicitly calling out blind spots or biases or weaknesses. Where is this plan weak? What am I looking at? What am I missing here? A third in here gets more to kind of also that mindset of humility. Gosh, if there's pieces to marketing you don't love, for example, when I was acting as a fractional CMO for those 30 plus businesses, one of the things that I hated doing was building content calendars, even though it was critical that we identified things like the pillars of messages and the different audiences, and it would take me 8 to 10 hours to put something like that together. Once I figured it out, uploading that to GPT and saying, can you just decode what I did here? And now can you help me do this for another client and build a content calendar for me that's like this, or that basically breaks this apart, was immediately a huge relief. And so I would encourage you to delegate to AI what you don't love. There's also an opportunity, though, to delegate to others. And this is another big spot, in particular in the world of marketing. I think we struggle with oftentimes getting everybody on the same page. The branding person thinks differently than the design person, who might think differently than the messaging person, who might think differently than the digital person, who might think differently than the SEO person. Getting everybody on the same page can be, with AI, something as simple as, can you create a brief to keep us all on the same page? Here's what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. So that would be step three. I'm going to pause here and also say, any experience with that kind of augmentation, or anybody else have an experience using AI for what they're not good at or what they're missing? Is that a novel idea, or have you been using that?
So Keith, my name's Darren. I was going to share because I got this actually from another Fractionals United member, and I want to look them up so I can give them credit. But
Awesome.
they shared a prompt that, in my opinion, it changed the course of me, whether I stayed in business or not. And the prompt was exactly what you're talking about, the blind spots,
Ah,
because it was basically um, saying that I want to I want you to look at everything that you know about me, come back and provide the top 15 things that either increase revenue, uh, open a new open something new for me, or save me boatloads of time. And I want to be surprised, and it's okay if it's things that I've never done, and I also wanted to look at my blind spots. I mean, all of that.
love it.
And it built out something. It was as if I had been standing in front of a whiteboard, and it was all the crap that was in my head that I hadn't been able to get out, because as a solopreneur, you're just kind of, there's nobody. And it was like, oh my gosh, I can now brainstorm with somebody. So
Yes.
yeah, it was awesome.
I love hearing that. I had somebody at an event, we had a summit for some of our users a couple weeks ago, pull me aside and say one of the things that he's most loved about using our software, in this case AI, kind of to augment his work, is it's taken away the loneliness. He was frankly getting kind of depressed in his work because he used to work for a big agency, and he was somebody within that agency, and AI gives him essentially a digital colleague, which I thought was interesting. Mike, you've got something to add too.
Sure.
Just
Yeah. Yeah, I use it a lot, even preparing for meetings, particularly when, as fractionals, sales pitch is already hard, and getting clients to sign up for a service is really tough. And
Mm,
it can be really helpful to practice those against an agent. You can give them personalities. You can say, I need a pitch to somebody who just is not technologically savvy. How do I go about pitching the solution to them in a way that's going to make sense to them? And so I do quite a bit of that. Different personalities, the hardest to the easiest to everything in between. And that's been really helpful. The other thing that we do a lot of is, when we create solutions, is we put agents against each other. So we'll try different LLMs.
yes.
And there are things we do where we're scoring some kind of an indicator based on a framework that we've built on a knowledge base. And if two different LLMs come up with a really wildly different value, we want to know why. So we'll then have a third agent that will go and check, and we'll interrogate them. So why are these two so different? And what were you thinking? How did you arrive at that decision? And I have and it's one of the things that I love about AI, and I encourage other people to do, is just play with it, because you
Yes.
start to get an idea of how they think, because
Yeah.
that's half the fun. And it's also half the way we do exactly this. We augment ourselves. A lot of automation, it's low-hanging fruit, but where the real power is understanding how to ask the right questions. And to do that, you kind of need to know how they think. And the more you do that, the more you play, the more you get to kind of get an idea. Oh, I see. And so your prompts become better. And
Yeah. I
You know,
love that encouragement. Thank you for your energy around it too. Thank you. And you had something to add.
So I wanted to just comment with Darren, because I was at the same meeting as one of the meetings with Darren about your blind spots. And that's definitely, I have to do that. That's on my to-do list for that. But there's a lot of great stuff today. And what's interesting for me is I can identify with so much as a marketer, but I use one tool against the other. So one of the tools I love, for example, is Notebook LM, which I feel is still a bit underrated. And I put a lot of my work and things I've done in Notebook LM to do deep thinking and analysis for products I might want to offer, or programs I might want to offer to clients. And then I take that very high level output. Sometimes it's very dry, but then I have a voice in chat. So using a different model, and I'll put it in and say, okay, now help me customize this further for X, Y, and Z. And I find that that works super well. But I do think, playing with the tools is so important. And then the other thing I'd add is sometimes I use AI. I'm an early adopter of tech. I love it, even though I'm a marketer, but I have always had that itch for the what's next. So I do embrace the technology. And I've done that through my whole life. It's just this curiosity I have about what's next. What's that? A startup or whatever the thing is. I love to play, which can be dangerous, but it's good. So another thing I do too is now the AI augmentation and making my life better. So now I'm looking at agents to, I saw another demo or YouTube video of a gentleman. I think his name is Mike Colgan, I think. But he did a fun presentation on using agents to help with leads. And I'm like, oh, well, I could not only build that or create that for myself, then I can productize that for a model for others to augment my services. So I think, in helping ourselves in our industries, we can also use the same tools to help others. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So
I love that point, Ann. And I'll just use that to kind of build into the next part of this presentation and say, first of all, I love all the different use cases. This is really the spirit of this call. The reason we want to put this together is let's share what we're learning so we can all do better. And many of us on this call also operate as solo practitioners. So I'm hoping that we can keep some more of these ideas going. And I also want to just push that thinking now a little bit further. At least statistically, fewer people are doing this. And I think from the question I asked in the Mentimeter, we also saw that to be true. But I want to just recap where we're at and then move us into the final two steps and get us out of here at the top of the hour. So, becoming indispensable is the goal. Three things that I really want to encourage everybody to do: leveraging that expertise with better and better prompts and insights and your unique superpowers, bring those to bear. Two is training, so you're getting more and more context in there, so you're getting better and better answers. And three is flipping it to augmentation, not just for what you do well, but also what you might be missing, different perspectives. What would HR think about this? Or let's go to banana land, as a friend of mine likes to call it. So those are the first three. As we start to stretch a little bit here, move us into the challenge zone, there's two other things that I'd like to talk about. One of them is altering your entire business model. I just put up here a little picture. We were training about 20 of our customers in this recently. We introduced a program for them to build and resell these in a broader way. We'd had a bunch of our customers using this. We codified this and basically said, hey, at the core, what we need to do is start with high quality plans and strategies. And most of you, as strategic folks, for those who are strategic CMOs or CSOs, you understand what great quality looks like. And that's really where your value is. And so pulling those together is step one. Step two is assembling that in some sort of codified way, essentially capturing that, packaging it, and then either making it available for yourself or your partners on kind of one side of the wall, if you will, or, and this is going to be a little bit more of the stretch, providing access to clients directly, to their teams or to VAs that they might have that actually can use your roadmaps and playbooks. The advantage of that is everybody can actually maximize learning, maximize speed. Insights are gold and speed is what wins today. And so not only can you increase your own quality, but you can reduce the time and variability in doing this work. So there are two different use cases I want to talk about. The first is using this for yourself, and the second is giving clients direct access. But I want to stretch your thinking maybe just a little bit more and say, here's why you might be skeptical. I know some people are that we first share this idea with, like, I would lose control, or I'm not going to be able to charge them as much money then, or they're cutting me out of the equation, whatever those objections might be. Here's why I think, at least in the long term, in the short term, we have this opportunity to experiment with giving clients access can work even better. If you go back to those core forces that are happening out there with knowledge and average and remember the third one. What we have for implications here are your value is actually in wisdom. And so you can actually charge more for knowing what to do than doing it. That third one, I guess, was charging by the hour, right? Getting away from that. The second is you've got an opportunity to let customers do what they can do. They can also be in this loop. So it's not just you as an expert designing or directing or even implementing, but you can blend who does what when you use AI in this way to kind of create a container, if you will. And the third is you can create these containers in such a way so that the systems are actually learning continuously. So the more people are using it, the more we actually are getting a feedback loop into this works and this doesn't. Because at least in my experience, a lot of what we do in the world of marketing is develop hypotheses and test them. It's really hard to predict human behavior on a consistent basis. And so we try things, and the faster we can try them and the more we can learn about what's working, the better job we could do for our clients. And so I'm going to just spend a couple of minutes on this. There are two options to this that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to get the fifth one, and we'll get this all done in 15 minutes. So I'm going to go pretty fast. We've got some handouts that we'll send you afterwards. And if anybody wants to set up or has other questions, send them out, and I can create a tool for how to do this if you don't know how in more detail. But option one is to do this. Easiest platform of all the LLMs right now, I think, is still OpenAI's ChatGPT. You can build a custom GPT, and it might look something like this. There's basically three pieces to it. One of them is knowledge, two are instructions, and three are what they just call conversation starters. And in the discussion a couple of minutes ago, when you all were sharing examples, I will say, somebody made the comment about pitting the models against each other, or learning more about how they think. I think that's absolutely wonderfully true, but I'm going to build on that and say, and one of the opportunities we have is to move from just passively accepting a model to realizing that each of you on this call can actually be a creator of those models. So you don't need to just be a passive receiver. You can be an active creator. You can create your own model that acts a certain way consistently, that uses a certain set of knowledge consistently, and that knows how to do things consistently following certain system instructions. And so how you do that, very briefly, if you have a paid GPT account and you've not done this before, there's a little create button that you find when you choose GPTs in the sidebar on the left, and then explore. There's this create button here in the upper right that you can click on. And when you open that up, literally you can go, if you were having a conversation like I was for that outdoor store in Montana, you could say, okay, on the basis of what we've done, could you build a chat GPT, or could you build a custom GPT to actually help me enforce this, or help me execute things aligned to this? And the AI will write the instructions for the AI. And so you do not need to know programming. You do not need to be an amazing prompt engineer. You just need to be great at your craft and then know the question to ask, as somebody said. So you can literally copy those instructions and paste them into a ChatGPT custom GPT. If you have other knowledge files, you can attach something like, here's our market conditions, or here's a list of personas that we have, or here's my T2D3 model that I like. You can plug in some conversation starters, and then you can use it for yourself whenever you're working on a client. You can share that with somebody else on your team if you have an assistant or a colleague, or somebody you're partnering with, outsourcing to. Or that optional step that I've listed in there is you could potentially share it with a client as well. And so that is one approach to go. I will tell you, this is actually where we started 2 years ago as a syndicate of marketers. We immediately saw this because I was a computer guy in my past life and tech guy and founder always said, hey, what if we just created custom GPTs for all our clients? This could be transformational. The answer is yes, and there are some limitations. And so I just want to flag those now so that you have these. They may apply to you or they may not. It depends on how much you want to do or how much resolution you have or what the stakes are. But the limitations essentially fall into two buckets. On the left, I describe them as resolution, and on the right, utility. So you can't have a lot of information in a custom GPT. You only have a certain context window, what they call this memory limit. And it also is rolling off, and it's hard to know when you've rolled off. So if you are talking to a GPT, it often forgets what you talked about earlier, especially as those conversations get longer. You also only have an ability to provide about 3 to 5 pages of instructions in there. So for doing really discrete things, like I was talking to an agency yesterday who had built a ton of these, and they said, well, what we've done is taken each of our clients, and then for each job, we've created custom GPTs. And I said, well, how does that work? And I said, well, honestly, not very well. I said, why is that? I said, because we have to update them all the time, because we don't have any security model around it, because they really are very limited. And yet we didn't know that there was anything better. So, there are some challenges to doing it this way. You can only do what we call single step stuff. So if you have a complex thing you want a GPT to create, or GPTs often confuse their memory with other things that are in your general memory. And so ChatGPT thinks it's being kind by essentially remembering things about you, but it starts to intermix them. So if you ever work on more than one client, things can get pretty messy pretty quickly. So that's why we ultimately created Elevator, what we call Ella. Those limitations, we said, hey, we want to bust through those and do even more. I'm just going to spend a minute or two and show you what that looks like so you have some idea. What we've done is essentially built a system that has libraries of knowledge and best practices. I know there's a really dense slide here, but at the bottom, that's what's represented. We've, in this green layer, we built all these different frameworks that are best practices. We've identified 16 different ones. And so personas and value props and positioning statements and competitive guides. And we basically not only map those all out inside Ella, but we interconnect them so that when you go to write a playbook or a roadmap or a design brief or a campaign, it's all connected. And then at the very end, which is how most people start, hey, I want to use a GPT to create an asset. When you ask Ella, for example, to create an asset, or a brand bot that's been built with Ella to create an asset, she has thousands of pages of instructions, thousands of pages of context for how to do excellent work around that. And so you get above average very quickly. That's why we built what we built. And we found there's a lot of benefits to it. I'll just quickly show you a couple of screenshots. It's super easy to build what we call this high definition context. You just click on some buttons like, here's how to build an ICP or a persona, and it'll automatically build that, an associated value proposition canvas. Or we've included over 100 different built-in templates for things like, here's how to do social media posts well if you're B2B versus B2C. Here's how to do your email campaign if you're doing X, Y, and Z. You can use our templates. You can customize these templates and build your own. And you can also reuse them across clients. So it's really kind of workflow connected in there. And then finally, we have also opened Ella up. So not only are we kind of curating knowledge, but we are letting you bring your own brain, if you will, to the party. And so we're excited about that. I'm just going to quickly show, and hopefully tell me if this audio will play through. I think it will, but tell me if you can hear this. Ella is like having. Are you able to hear the audio if I keep playing it?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to just play 45 minutes because these were some people that were at our summit a week ago saying how they felt about Ella. So I want to show you that. Ella is like having 10 Einsteins in the room with you to think with, ask questions, challenge your thinking, explore. It's almost diabolical.
Oh, wow. You know, that's what was missing. That was the best tagline. That's going to hit.
She's a force multiplier.
Speed, clarity, accuracy, discovery, high definition.
It's like just this secret sauce, future proof,
Ease of strategy.
time management, freedom, better at my craft.
Quick, efficient, saves money, time.
She is taking away about 80% of the busy work. It's filled a void that was there when I'm working by myself.
She's a digital colleague. She's not software.
Use it or lose it. So again, I wanted to put that up there largely to just say, you know, we would love to make her available to anybody who's looking for something more in what they're doing. You know, but I also want to encourage, you may not need Ella yet. You may just be at the front edge of figuring out what all this stuff looks like, and that's great too. But essentially, we created Ella because we outgrew her, and just a couple of stories as I'm looking on here on how FCMOs then are specifically using Ella, not just to provide this greater quality and precision and efficiency and effectiveness, but they're also using it in this altered model. One of those clients I'm looking at here, I know that the FCMO charges $5,000 a month for guidance in using it. They built the brand bot. They only work a couple hours a week because they've shared that with me, and they're still getting a $5,000 a month retainer, and the client is getting access to a tool so 3 or 4 of their employees can use it. Another example is a social team. It's a B2B company. They're in oil and gas. They previously hired an agency that was charging them $5,000 a month. They're using an Ella brand bot that a marketer built for a couple grand a month, and that includes Ella plus a person. And in that case, they've been able to, you know, significantly increase engagement, get more quotes, and they've even gotten a client from that. One other quick example here, because I know we're short on time, is somebody who's using it for nonprofit, just in communicating with fundraising events and donor communications and emails. And that nonprofit, there's no way they could have afforded an agency or a team to do this kind of work. And so they're able to do things that they weren't previously. I'm going to skip over these just in the interest of time and just say there's a lot of wins for clients. The quality's there. I'm going to also talk about the idea, and this is whether you're using Ella or GPTs, these two would be true. So brand bots can deliver more wins for all of you because they are first and foremost based on deeper strategies. So you're getting better outcomes, and that's great. The idea of a brand bot is you can create these consistent and complete guardrails. You can spend more time in your personal zone of genius, and new revenue streams can open up to you. In our case, we actually share a significant portion of the revenue. We still would require somebody to have an Ella license, but we're essentially building an ecosystem now, much like HubSpot did in its early days. And you can, you know, become essentially a builder with our software. It's hard to do that in ChatGPT. So you can build your knowledge, your expertise, your system, and your client stuff, give them access, and now you can start to earn some recurring revenue on that. And we share that with you. Plus, you can, again, charge more for that expertise. Those are the 4. I want to quickly hit number 5. This is just the advanced one. It's a final one, and it's going to be brief, but I wanted to plant a seed for anybody on this call that might be a framework creator. If you're somebody who not only is a creative in the field of marketing or sales, but you also are a systems thinker, you might have built your own frameworks, your own tools. And so you also can not only create those inside Ella, everybody can, but there's another option that we're just opening up now inside our platform, which is you can build build your tools and essentially make them available to other Ella users. So we have 5 that are coming out here in the next month. And we have 11 more that are sitting behind it that we plan to release by the end of the year. But these would be frameworks like, if you're familiar with duct tape marketing, they've built a number of playbooks for different industries like fractional growth. It's essentially called the Fractional Leader Growth Edition. And so they've got their playbooks that have been built in there, and we're sharing a significant portion of the revenue back. So if you're interested in exploring something like that, whether it's with our software or, again, you want to build your own framework around this, I think that's where things are going, so that we're moving away from just charging by the hour or just setting these up. We can go to the point of, gosh, you could actually be on somebody else's team too with your expertise. And so I wanted to throw that out there too. Last of the slides before I get to kind of the close of two things I'm going to send you for follow-ups. This is just a list of things not to do. These are the 6 mistakes that we made at some point along the way. Limiting AI to just doing your homework, using the same tools that everybody else can, automating for its own sake. I think automation is dangerous oftentimes, and we usually defer. We only automate when we're 100% sure that it's ready to automate. Not charging for time instead of value, not trying to do everything yourself, and don't underestimate your own value as an expert. There are 2 things that I'm going to be sending in terms of handouts. And so I want to be super clear with you that these are going to be coming in your email in the next 24 hours. And then I also wanted to extend an offer. If what we're doing with Elevator would be of interest to any of you, you can have complimentary use of that software. Usually we just do a 2-week trial, but we decided for Fractionals United to go ahead and give you till the end of November. So if you want to experiment with what this high definition thing looks like, if you want to augment, we have things like built-in blind spot detectors that automatically fire when you do work. If you want to build your own marketing plan and try out some of those playbooks that Duct Tape wrote, or you even want to experiment with brand bots for clients, we just wanted to give you an opportunity to play and try. We feel like at a minimum, we're going to learn. We hope that you would learn through that process too, and we wanted to make that offer available.
I don't think your QR code's working.
Okay, I will send that out as
It's
a follow-up.
not, yeah.
Okay, thank you for letting me
You're
know.
welcome.
I will fix that and send that out as an email immediately after.
I
So
thought it was me. I thought it was me.
yeah, okay, good.
Thank you for validating me, whoever that was.
Yes, and thank you for realizing
That
that
was
the one,
me, Ann.
Okay, thank
the
you.
one call to action. So put your name in chat if you would too, and just say I'm in on that, and we can send you an immediate follow-up after that. And apologies for that. So let's see, on this last bit, I would just say this, that, you know, the real opportunity here is being exceptional. I hope you see your role is more critical than ever. I love the idea of every one of you having superpowers that can be activated, and they need you out there in this world. So if you want to get more information, if you want to share any of your success, if you want to ask about other things that we've learned, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or through email. And I want to be done on time, but I'll also hold longer if there are some additional questions. So.
Can I ask?
So very much.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to thank you
Yes,
before.
you bet.
I would love to ask a question, and this is for you or anybody in the group. I've had 2 clients who have prohibited me from using any kind of AI in work, and there are other consulting companies have brought me in, and a lot of it is around confidentiality and sharing of data, and it's really, I'm finding that a hard balance of trying to be thoughtful in how I use things and be more forward thinking versus the signing a contract that says if one piece of our data gets out, like we're gonna sue you, basically. So thoughts, anyone?
I don't mean to be a say-it-all, but I can answer that question, Keith. I am so sorry. I'm a quiet guy.
Yeah, please.
We use Gemini and we use custom prompting for this exact purpose, and we embed knowledge in this. I went 4 for 4 telling clients that we were doing this, and we lost the deal. They wouldn't talk to us. Why? Because the world got ChatGPT dumped on them for generative content that is bland. I don't even tell them I am using AI until I start the contract. I literally just position AI augmented services by this is the value add. I can work so fast, I can't do rate times hours anymore. I'm at a 3 times speed times a 5 times speed. So I charge fixed fee, how much it used to cost me, and save 60% of my time. The world is in the AI hype valley. AI is a toxic word right now. As long as it doesn't avoid potential lawsuits, my personal small approach is just not tell them until they see the deliverables and then go, I'll say girlfriend, but you would say boyfriend. Let me introduce you to my beautiful boyfriend that I date and I'm married to, and he is loyal to me and he will never lead us. And then they see the results, they don't care. That's all
Yeah,
I have to say.
no, I can't do that.
Yeah,
I can't do
yeah,
that. So
Tracy, let me give you one alternative to this,
thank you.
Tracy. So what we've done is basically given them security and kind of an audit checklist, and even inside Ella, I'll actually switch over and share a slightly different screen here for a moment. So you've got our answer to it. What we say to clients is essentially this. Let's do it this way. Here is our security and compliance checklist.
Okay.
So this is our privacy policy. These are our terms of use. This is our service agreement. This is our confidentiality. This is our principles. This is basically everything we've done, and we're working towards a level of security compliance, which is called SOC 2, that gives a lot of enterprise customers the satisfaction that they're looking for. But I will tell you that we have a large public company that's using Ella, and this was sufficient. And I will also tell you that we've got law firms that are using Ella and are using it for their own marketing, and somebody who does marketing for law firms who is very worried about the same thing. We just gave them this information and said, we're private, we're secure. Using ChatGPT, I would not trust. It's discoverable. There's all kinds of potential issues with just using a general LLM. But Ella, we're using the API, and it is completely private and completely secure and completely confidential. So,
Okay. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, you've created a somewhat of a walled garden for the clients, but
that's right.
but still expanding across to learn more. So, okay.
Yep.
Going through your
Absolutely.
due diligence in the security world, and that's very
Yeah.
important. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, I also fixed the QR code. Thank you for pointing that out. And it is in a link in the chat, and we'll make sure it's in the slides updated appropriately and in the email. So,
Thank you. I appreciate the answer.
yeah, you bet. Any other questions right now or comments, learnings you want to share with others?
Keith, will you be sharing the deck?
I will.
Awesome.
I'll share the deck, two deliverables that we created, kind of an audit opportunity checklist and a pivot guide. They're just relatively brief, but kind of the best learnings that we've had over the last 2 years. We'll send that out. And we'll also include in there a link to this thing I'm sharing too. So you'll have it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah, thanks for people's curiosity. Again, I'll keep hanging till the last person hangs up. If you got questions, fire away. Otherwise, it was very nice to meet you all. Let me know if I can
Bye,
support you.
everybody. Take care.
Thank you.